kind of a big thing to do when I was at Iowa State, in grad school. A lot of us would come down. And, I'm lucky enough to be in Davenport, Iowa, which is kind of in the middle of where all of the locations tend to be, whether it's Kansas City, Minneapolis, Chicago. So it's comfortable. I got friends who are here. I'm starting to get students involved, so that's fun too. So I get to see, as I've transitioned from student to faculty member, that's been fun too.
Well, it was my first conference I went to as an undergrad, so that was back in maybe 2000. And I've basically been coming ever since, and so it's kind of a reunion opportunity. I mean, I use it as academic and professional development stuff, but it's a big part of it is to reconnect with faculty members. My alma mater from my undergrad is actually, the faculty are here as well. They come here regularly, and then Iowa State folks come here, so it's fun to see both the graduate students as well as the faculty. So that's one of the big reasons I come here.
Well, it's always fun to share your research. I think that anytime you go to a conference is a good motivator for getting stuff done. But also, I love coming to MSS because I get to see the faculty I worked with while I was at Iowa State, and also colleagues that I went to grad school with. And oftentimes that leads to collaborations. Plus, it's just fun to see everyone. I mean, I made lifelong friendships.
At this point, connecting with all of my friends from graduate school and professors from both Wayne State as an undergrad and then Iowa State grad school, but just getting excited about sociology. I mean, you hear about new ideas for teaching and new research things that are going on. It's just such a great energizer for everything that sociology has to offer.
I enjoy to touch base with my faculty mentors, the Floras. I also see peers that I went to graduate school with, and it's so delightful to see them at their stage in their career development and catch up on old times.
It's totally the people, right? I come to MSS to hang out with former Iowa State grads because we went together, we went to school together, we went through hell together, and now we're scattered to the wind and we're all over the place. And MSS is the one place where we get to come together and talk and hang out and hear about and learn from each other still. So that's, I think, what keeps a lot of us coming back to MSS more than anything else.
I've been to MSS a few times. I also was very active in the Rural Sociological Society. And one of the things when you go to either MSS or RSS, you notice is that Iowa State faculty and graduate students are very well represented. And so even after graduating, it's always fun to come back and see the scholarship that's coming out of Iowa State University at these conferences.
Research-wise, I've kind of moved into the area of the construction of social problems. I've got an article coming out here soon that's more theoretical, kind of looks at how, instead of using the terminology of social problems, I'm looking at the idea of what all claims making has in common. So when we make claims that something's a problem or not a problem, what's really behind that. And kind of a core part of that for me is looking at this idea of interests and whose interests are at stake. Am I making claims about other people's interests, my own interests? How am I making those kinds of claims? That sort of thing. So that's something I got coming out right now.
I think the thing I'm most excited about right now is I've helped start a Center for Rural Communities, and so I've been pursuing funding, both grant funding as well as trustee funding for through our college to get the Center for Rural Communities going. And basically what it is, it's an outlet for community-based research in the Northwoods area, so across northern Wisconsin. It's also an outlet for our undergraduates to engage in applied community-based research and to gain that experience, and then finally an opportunity for your faculty there in my department, which is social responsibility, to do research, whether it's applied or more academic, theoretical stuff. So the center is the project that I'm most excited about, but we have a number of projects that are going through there, and actually a fair number of those projects have been informed by Terry Besser's work. So doing, looking at asset-based development opportunities across the Northwoods. Again, that includes northern Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, and then also northern Minnesota. And so we've done assets and amenities, we've done a social capital survey. I'm working with natural scientists on collecting data related to human dimensions of people who live in the natural area up there, so like lake surveys, people who live around a lake in northern Wisconsin, and collecting their perceptions, their attitudes, values, behaviors related to the lakes that they live around. And the idea is that if we understand how people view the lake and how they use the lake and how they behave on that lake, that's going to help inform a better lake management plan. So I have like 6 or 7 different projects that are ongoing that are through the center, and pretty exciting, but it's fun.
Well, I'm really excited because my research right now focuses on gender, but specifically I'm looking at human trafficking cases. So a colleague and I at the University of Colorado Springs have a grant to assess sexual exploitation demand in 11 cities across the United States. And so we're actually partnering with some scholars at the University of Arizona to look at sexual exploitation, specifically online related to trafficking. I'm working with some graduate students at the University of Colorado Springs on perceptions of law enforcement on human trafficking cases. And I just had a publication with a colleague at my university on gender and biosocial research. So we're really excited about that publication as well.
So some of the things that we talked about in the session were anything from using the internet. So whether this is using sociology blogs, or there's Facebook pages that are about sociology ideas. So just being an active participant and really utilizing those resources that are available to you. We talked about anything from Facebook pages. So for some of my topics courses, like a race course or a gender course, I've created Facebook groups for those classes where people have to post articles or videos or whatnot that are happening and comment to one another. But so utilizing that. Also anything from changing the structure of the classes. Some of my courses have moved to being what we refer to as a hybrid class, but basically where you meet once a week, and then there's a heightened expectation of what you're doing outside of class, which really holds students more accountable for their own learning, and it's just kind of a different approach to then what goes on within the classroom, because you can expect them to already know so much of that material before they get there.
Currently, we are exploring a project that looks at community gardens in low-income, underserved neighborhoods. And the goal is to examine whether or not community gardens enable better health outcomes. And so we're starting out in 2 communities, Baltimore and Birmingham, Alabama, and this will eventually become a longitudinal study.
So I have really 2 areas of research that I work on. The first and probably longest area of research is I am a social psychologist, and I study identities and emotions, and I'm working on several papers with the former professor actually from Iowa State on that. And the second area of research I do is on sexual assault. And the project I think right now that I'm most excited about is doing I have a big team of researchers, and we're working together to look at the social networks of sexual assault survivors. So when someone is sexually assaulted, who does that person disclose to? And when she does disclose or tell someone about her sexual assault and that person reacts, how does that affect her? That's been done before, but what hasn't been done is looking at that embedded within networks. So if someone's sexually assaulted and they tell their friend and they tell their mom, they're going to get 2 different responses, and those different responses are going to have differential impacts. And so we're trying to model out the actual lived experience of someone, and that's in early stages, so I'm really excited about that project.
My research is quantitative in nature and generally focuses around themes of social capital or the creative class, looking at quality of life in a community, the influence that social capital or the creative class has on quality of life or economic development, or even social issues like reductions in the crime rate.
There were a lot. It was fun hanging up on the top floor there. I know they renovated it like literally the month I left, which is sort of annoying. So I would say one kind of experience that sort of sums up my time there, and kind of the cohort that we had. A lot of us took a class with Cornelia Flora on race and ethnicity, and due to her schedule, we scheduled the class on Saturdays at her house. So we would meet, once a week in her house for like 8 hours or something like that. And we'd talk about the readings, we'd have group discussion, and then we'd have lunch and those sorts of things. So it was a very unique experience that I think kind of sums up what it was like to be there. It felt very family-like at the time. So
the most memorable thing I have, there were a number of faculty there that were tremendously helpful, and so I went to a private liberal arts college as an undergrad, and the experience I had, it was very different from a large state university, and so it was very one-on-one connection with the faculty members. And when I went on to graduate school, a lot of that same interaction occurred with the faculty members, so like Betty Dobratz, Cornelia Flora, Terry Besser, obviously. I mean, there were a number of people who were tremendously helpful in that way, and so I think in terms of just helping me become the person that I am today and learning how to do research, being a better teacher in the classroom, all those things, there were a lot of faculty that helped that along the way. So there's also funny stuff, but I don't know.
So I have a lot of positive memories about Iowa State, but I think what's central to all of those memories is the people. I mean, the relationships that I formed, the people that I've worked with, the people that mentored me. So whether it's the picnics that we had in sociology or taking classes with friends and now colleagues, it's the people that stay with me. And it's really nice to come to MSS and get to reconnect with everyone and see what everyone's doing, how they're doing, see what's going on in their lives in terms of research, but also, their families, and just, see how everyone is. And that's probably the best thing, is because when I left Iowa State, those people stay with me.
I think what made Iowa State, my experience be there, so unique and something that's so memorable is just the cohort and the relationships that I was able to form. So not only with fellow graduate students, but also with faculty members. But even East Hall itself is unique, that the entire, fourth floor, top floor, we're up in the attic, but all the graduate students of that camaraderie that is able to be built, you have, especially when I was there, a lot of people didn't have their own computers, but you had your little computer lab that everyone could use with the printer that always got jammed. But I mean, sharing ideas of things that were going on, and I'm really struggling with this statistical homework, okay, let's all brainstorm, and everyone is right there. I think a lot of grad schools programs aren't able to facilitate that type of thing, just because of even the structure of that entire fourth floor is able to provide. So that's such a great memory. I mean, and we, kept doing things to make our fourth floor be better. So we all got together one weekend and painted the different walls, and tried to clean up the kitchen, and just little silly stuff. But it's such a great memory of hanging out in the attic, really.
When I think about Iowa State and East Hall, I think about this real rich sense of community, and no matter how challenging graduate work became, I could always go to the floor above and see a faculty member working on a grant, preparing for a class, and they would always have time to support me as a graduate student. So I felt a real bond with ISU, and I felt like I was part of an extended family.
It was awesome being in that environment at the fourth floor and having everyone there, and just, not wanting to work, so going and bothering someone else that they're not allowed to work either, and joking and asking questions and actually getting help. I think the thing, besides the camaraderie of grad school, which you don't have when you're a professor the same way, it's never the same way again. The thing I probably miss most about being in grad school is seminars. Going to a seminar and sitting at a table with a whole bunch of people who just read and are engaged in the same material, and digging into it and getting in depth. I teach seminars now as a professor, but the experience is different, right? Because I come in and I'm the expert, right, at the table, and when I speak, I'm not interrogated, right? I'm assumed to be right even when I'm not, right? But when you're in grad school, it's about getting molded and molding each other, and it's just, you don't get that. So enjoy it while you have it, because it's an amazing time.
After graduation, I get a chance to talk with a lot of people that did their PhDs elsewhere. And what I find is that whenever I have these discussions, I always think back on how fortunate I was to have attended Iowa State University. The mentorship from the faculty was amazing. The relationships with other people going through grad school at the same times are priceless. And so when I think back to Iowa State sociology, I think of the formal aspects, going to classes and such, but then also how much fun we had as a cohort, drinking coffee in East Hall, just collaborating on different projects, working on class projects or even publications. Those were fantastic experiences.